Did you know over 14 million people in the UK are now living in poverty, including nearly 4 million on life support? Teachers are walking out, and even full-time workers are visiting food banks just to survive. It's a country known for its stability, but right now, the cracks are spreading fast and deep. From rising costs and broken public services to political chaos and climate threats, something unsettling is happening beneath the surface. The UK isn't just going through a rough patch. It may be heading straight for a breaking point. And while the headlines might give you bits and pieces, few are telling the full story of what's really pushing the nation to the edge. In this video, we're diving into 10 powerful reasons the UK is reaching a point of no return and what that could mean for your future. Stick around, because reason number 10 might just shock you the most. Number 1. The cost of living crisis is spiraling out of control. Across the UK, millions of households are struggling to survive. Literally. Inflation may have dipped in headlines, but everyday essentials tell a different story. Basic groceries like bread, milk and eggs has skyrocketed by up to 25% in just 2 years. Rent is soaring, mortgages are up, and energy bills have doubled for many families. And here's the harsh reality. Even people working full-time jobs are now having to skip meals, fall behind on payments, or rely on food banks. According to the Joseph Rowntree Foundation, 1 in 5 people in the UK now lives in poverty. That's not a fringe issue. It's a full-blown national emergency. Behind these numbers is a quiet exhaustion that's building across the country. People are working longer hours, yet falling further behind. Parents are cutting back on heating their homes so their children can eat. Elderly residents are choosing between buying medication and paying rent. It's not just a financial issue anymore. It's affecting physical and mental health, family relationships, and overall quality of life. And it's no longer limited to the most vulnerable. Even middle-class families. This slow economic suffocation is becoming part of daily life. Normalized, but dangerous. What's worse, there's no clear roadmap out. Government assistance has been inconsistent, wages haven't kept pace, and many support programs are being cut just when people need them most. The question is, how long can this pressure build before something breaks? This crisis isn't just about money. It's about dignity, survival, and whether a society as wealthy as the UK can still protect its people from falling through the cracks. Number 2. The NHS is overwhelmed and cracking under pressure. Once considered the crown jewel of British society, the National Health Service is now on the brink of collapse. Waiting times for hospital treatments are at record highs, with over 7 million people in England alone stuck in queues for essential care. People are waiting months, even years, for operations that used to be routine. In some AE departments, patients are left waiting over 12 hours to be seen. Statistics are real lives, people in pain, families in crisis, and healthcare professionals pushed beyond their limits. The system that was built to protect everyone, rich or poor, is now gasping for breath. The deeper you look, the worse it gets. Overworked nurses, burned out doctors, and chronic understaffing have become the norm. Many NHS workers are leaving the profession altogether, citing unbearable stress, poor pay, and unsafe conditions. The British Medical Association warns that entire hospitals are operating in disaster mode every day. Equipment is outdated, buildings are crumbling, and there's simply not enough funding to keep up with demand. And let's not forget the mental toll. Healthcare staff are breaking down, emotionally and physically, trying to keep a sinking ship afloat. This isn't just a staffing issue, it's a system-wide emergency. And if you think this doesn't affect you, think again. Whether it's your GP appointment waiting too long for a cancer diagnosis, everyone is feeling the cracks. The NHS is not just a service, it's the lifeline of the nation, but right now, it's running on fumes. Without urgent reform, investment, and real political will, we may be witnessing the slow death of one of Britain's greatest institutions. And the question is, what happens when the safety net disappears completely? Number 3. A housing market in crisis. The UK's housing situation isn't just difficult, it's rapidly becoming unsustainable. Average house prices have soared to over £285,000, while the average salary has failed to keep up, making home ownership a distant dream for millions. For younger generations, the idea of owning a home is no longer a milestone. It's a fantasy. Many are stuck in the rent trap, where monthly rents often exceed what a mortgage payment would be, yet saving for a deposit is nearly impossible. In London, renters spend up to 50% of their income just on rent. The young. Entire families are living in overcrowded conditions, with some forced into temporary accommodation or even homelessness. Even those who do manage to buy face a new nightmare: rising interest rates. Mortgage payments are climbing fast, leaving many homeowners on the edge of default. According to the Bank of England, over 1.4 million households will see a significant jump in monthly payments by next year. Add to this the chronic shortage of affordable housing, and you've got a perfect storm. Councils are struggling to build, planning permissions are delayed, and public housing projects are being slashed. It's a market that's broken at every level: buying, renting, and building. But beyond the economics, this crisis is deeply personal. It's about security, stability, and the ability to build a future. When people can't afford a roof over their head, everything else starts to unravel. Mental health declines, family life becomes unstable. If housing is a basic human need, then the UK is failing on one of its most fundamental responsibilities. So the question becomes, how did one of the world's richest nations end up unable to house its own people? Number 4. Political division and leadership fatigue. The UK has entered a period of unprecedented political instability, and people are growing tired, not just of the parties, but of the entire system. In just over 7 years, the country has cycled through 5 different prime ministers, multiple general elections, and wave after wave of scandal. From the Brexit fallout to the Partygate fiasco and the chaos of sudden leadership changes, it feels like the political class is more focused on surviving headlines than solving real problems. Trust in politicians is at an all-time low, and for good reason. Promises are made, then broken. Meanwhile, the country drifts deeper into crisis, turning into something more dangerous: disengagement. Voter turnout is dropping, especially among young people who feel their voices don't matter. According to surveys by YouGov and Ipsos, more than 2/3 of Brits believe the political system is no longer working, and when trust disappears, something else fills the void: anger, apathy, and extremism. Political conversations have become more polarized, more toxic. People aren't just disagreeing, they're dividing. And in that division, progress becomes almost impossible. Laws stall, reforms fail, and the problems piling up in society only get worse. This kind of leadership crisis doesn't just stay in Westminster. It trickles down into every part of daily life. Without strong, stable direction from the top, public services flounder, the economy wavers, and social cohesion crumbles. People begin to feel like they're on their own. And when a nation stops believing that its leaders are capable or even willing, the result isn't just political disappointment, it's national instability. So we have to ask, is the UK facing not just a crisis of leadership, but a collapse of faith in democracy itself? Number 5. The mental health epidemic is growing quietly. Beneath the noise of political scandals and economic turmoil, another crisis is unfolding: a silent epidemic of mental health struggles. Anxiety, depression, burnout, and loneliness are rising across every age group, but the most alarming spike is among the young. According to NHS data, 1 in 6 children in the UK now suffers from a probable mental disorder. Among adults, the numbers aren't much better. The pandemic may have accelerated this crisis, but it didn't create it. Years of social isolation, job insecurity, overwork, and digital overload have created the perfect conditions for emotional collapse. Despite the growing need, the system meant to support mental health is failing to keep up. Waiting lists for therapy can stretch for months or even years, and underfunded services are buckling under. People in severe mental distress are told to call back if things get worse. School counselors, community clinics, and crisis hotlines are all overwhelmed. And yet, mental health still doesn't receive the same urgency or funding as physical health. The result? A generation that feels invisible, unsupported, and stuck. The scariest part is how normalized it's all becoming. We scroll past stories of teen suicides, burnout breakdowns, and self-harm as if they're just part of the modern experience. But this isn't normal, and it's not sustainable. Mental health isn't a side issue, It's at the core of how society functions. When people don't feel well, they can't learn, work, build relationships, or thrive. And when millions are quietly struggling, the long-term effects ripple through the economy, the workforce, and the future of the country. So the question is, what happens when an entire society is emotional and no one is listening anymore? If this video made you stop and think, drop a key. Comment below, not just a reaction, but what you see happening around you. We pour hours into every episode to bring you real stories and deep insights. So if you found value here, please subscribe. It's just one click, but it means the world to us. Number 6. Education under strain and fading fast. The UK's education system, once a source of national pride, is now facing serious structural breakdowns. Across the country, schools are grappling with budget cuts, staff shortages, overcrowded classrooms, and crumbling infrastructure. According to the National Education Union, 1 in 3 teachers plans to leave the profession within the next 5 years, citing burnout, low pay, and lack of support. Meanwhile, students are sitting in dilapidated buildings, some with collapsing ceilings or no heating in winter. And it's not just physical conditions. The quality is declining, especially in underfunded areas. As the system weakens, the gap between privileged and disadvantaged students is growing wider than ever. Wealthier families are turning to private tutors or elite schools, while others are left behind in overstretched classrooms with limited resources. Many schools are having to cut subjects like music, art, and drama, robbing students of creativity and balance. Teachers are forced to act as social workers, counselors, and educators all at once. And with rising mental health issues and learning gaps post-pandemic, the pressure is only increasing. The result? A generation that feels underprepared and undervalued. But here's the bigger picture. When education fails, a nation's future collapses with it. We're not just talking about test scores. We're talking about critical thinking, innovation, and opportunity. What happens when tomorrow's leaders don't have the tools they need today? When children feel school is broken, they disengage. And when a society's minds, it starts to decay from within. So the question is, how can a country expect to compete, thrive, or grow when its classrooms are falling apart at the seams? Number 7. Erosion of workers' rights and the rise of the disposable employee. In a country that once helped shape the modern labor movement, workers in the UK are now losing hard-earned rights at an alarming rate. The rise of zero-hour contracts, gig economy jobs, and stagnant wages has turned stable employment into a game of survival. According to the Trades Union Congress, TUC, over 3.9 million people in the UK are in insecure work, meaning no fixed hours, no paid sick leave, and often no long-term security. Even those with full-time jobs are being pushed harder for less, with many reporting burnout, anxiety, and financial instability despite working 40-plus hours a week. The power once held by the workforce is rapidly shifting. Unions are being undermined as disruptions instead of desperate cries for fairness, and protections that once shielded workers from exploitation are slowly being eroded. Sectors like transport, education, and healthcare are seeing waves of industrial action, not because workers want conflict, but because they've been left with no choice. They're fighting not just for fair pay, but for respect, safety, and dignity in the workplace. When the people who run the trains, teach the children, and care for the sick feel forced to walk out, something is deeply wrong. This shift affects more than just the workers themselves. When people feel expendable, their health suffers, their families suffer, and the economy suffers. Productivity drops, morale crashes, and society becomes more divided. And let's be clear, this isn't about laziness or entitlement. It's about a system that increasingly values profits over people. So here's the question. What kind of future people who keep the country running can't even afford to live with basic dignity? Number 8. Climate change is hitting home, and fast. For years, climate change felt like something distant. Melting ice caps, rising sea levels, far-off disasters. But now, the UK is feeling the effects firsthand, and it's happening faster than most expected. In just the past few years, we've seen record-breaking heat waves, devastating floods, and droughts in areas that used to be reliably green. The summer of 2022 marked the UK's hottest year on record, with temperatures soaring above 40 degrees. an unthinkable number just a decade ago. Homes caught fire, roads melted, rail lines buckled. Climate change is no longer tomorrow's problem. It's here. It's now. And yet, the political response has been shockingly slow and inconsistent. While scientists warn of irreversible tipping points, tangled in delays, short-term interests, and corporate lobbying, investment in green infrastructure is lagging behind. Promises are made, but then quietly broken. In 2023, the UK government even approved new oil and gas drilling projects, just as experts were urging a rapid transition to renewables. The result? A nation that talks about sustainability but continues to prop up fossil fuels. Meanwhile, communities hit by floods are left without proper support, and climate resilience plans remain underfunded or ignored. But this crisis goes beyond extreme weather. Climate change threatens food security, housing stability, and public health. It's making poor areas even more vulnerable, widening the gap between rich and poor, and testing the limits of infrastructure not built for such extremes. When the air becomes harder to breathe, when crops fail, when cities overheat, everything changes. So we must ask ourselves, how much damage has to be done before climate policy becomes more than just political theater? And will we act? Number 9. A fractured union. Is the United Kingdom still united? Behind the flag and formal titles, the United Kingdom is becoming increasingly divided. Tensions between England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland are reaching levels not seen in decades. In Scotland, support for independence remains strong, especially among younger generations. After Brexit, many Scots felt their voices were ignored. 62% voted to remain in the EU, but were pulled out regardless. That event didn't just fuel political anger, it reignited a national identity crisis. Now, the idea of Scotland becoming a sovereign nation is no longer fringe. It's a mainstream movement gaining real momentum. Meanwhile, Northern Ireland faces its own unique pressure. The fragile peace built by the Good Friday Agreement is being tested by post-Brexit trade rules and growing cultural division. Conversations about Irish reunification are no longer hypothetical. They are becoming increasingly common. Where independence used to be a niche idea, support is slowly rising. What once felt unthinkable, a breakup of the UK, is now being openly debated on national stages. And yet, the political establishment often brushes it off as noise, failing to recognize the emotional and cultural undercurrents that are driving it. This isn't just about borders and politics, it's about identity, fairness, and control. People across the UK feel disconnected from Westminster, and many believe they'd be better off governing themselves. The irony? The very union that once offered strength through unity is now seen by many as a barrier to progress. So here's the hard question. Is the United Kingdom truly united anymore? Or are we witnessing the beginning of its unraveling? And if the cracks keep growing, what would that mean? Not just politically, but culturally, economically, and socially, for the millions who still call it home. Public trust is collapsing. Perhaps the most dangerous crisis in the UK right now isn't visible in numbers. It's the collapse of public trust. Trust in government, media, police, and even the justice system has hit historic lows. According to the Edelman Trust Barometer, only 34% of UK citizens trust their national government to do what is right. That number falls even lower when it comes to young people. Politicians are seen as out of touch, the media as biased, and institutions once viewed as pillars of democracy are now viewed with deep suspicion. And when people stop believing anyone, they stop listening altogether. This kind of distrust is corrosive. It leads to polarization, conspiracy thinking, and a society where facts no longer matter. People disengage from politics, stop voting, and turn inward. Or worse, they become vulnerable to extremism, manipulation, or hopelessness. Once that trust breaks, it's not just about broken promises or scandals. It becomes a crisis of belief, and rebuilding it, that takes generations. Without trust, even the best policies fail. People stop participating, stop caring, and stop hoping. That's when democracy stops functioning, not with a bang, but with quiet resignation. This is more than just a political issue. It's a societal emergency. Trust is the glue that holds nations together. It's what convinces us to follow laws, pay taxes, help our neighbors, and believe that our voice matters. Without it, everything else begins to collapse: economy, health, education, even community spirit. So here's the final urgent question. When a society no longer trusts those in power or each other, how do you even begin to rebuild? And what happens if you don't? The signs are everywhere. From rising poverty to political instability, broken public services to a mental health crisis, the UK is facing isolated problems. It's confronting a national identity crisis. These 10 reasons aren't just headlines. They're warning lights on the dashboard of a country under strain. And while each issue is serious on its own, it's the way they're colliding, simultaneously, relentlessly, and without clear solutions, that makes this moment feel different, more fragile, more dangerous. But here's the thing, breaking points aren't always the end. They can also be the beginning of something new. A wake-up call. A society pushed to its limits can choose to fracture or choose to change. The future isn't written yet. Whether that future leads to renewal or further decline depends on how people respond, how they vote, how they speak out, how they support each other, and whether they demand better from those in power. This video wasn't made to spread fear. It was made to spark awareness, conversation, and urgency, because the truth is, the UK still has incredible potential, but only if we face the truth head-on. No more pretending things are fine. If you've made it this far, it means you care. And that's where real change starts. Not in headlines, but in hearts and minds willing to ask the hard questions. So now, what kind of country do we want to become? And what are we willing to do to get there?